people have different perspectives and different opinions about everything.
Every little bit of change makes a huge, huge difference.
We're mostly all taught how to compete. We're not taught how to cooperate.
Then they can start to have conversation to get to a place of resolution.
So if you could just tell me a little bit about your personal, educational, and professional background.
Okay. I was raised in the Philadelphia suburbs, and I have my bachelor's degree from Virginia Tech in it's basically a liberal arts degree, interdisciplinary studies. Studied communication and English and art history. So you could say I like to tell people I talk real good. I talk real good, I write real good. And so I left there and got into marketing. Marketing technology is where I was. And I was mostly a project manager and client services person with a real focus on client services. That's been my talent. I'm the guy that people call when they have a difficult client. All my career, when they had a difficult client, I was the guy that they called and said, we're going to give you this client because they're difficult and you seem to be able to work with these people. I spent 18 or 19 years working in marketing technology. At some point I realized, probably about 15 or 16 years in, I said, this is not for me. I need to transition out. And I looked around at all these different things and kind of fell back to, what am I good at? What do I most enjoy doing? Building culture, helping people to develop themselves, working with clients directly. Those were all things that I really, really enjoyed doing. So I made this transition into organization development.
Nice. And I guess that transitions well into our next question, which is about what drove you to peace building, which you're not calling peace building, but it sounds like that's what it is. Organizational development, as you called it. Is that the same as peace building within organizations, or are those two different things? And can you talk about how you got into that, how you got started?
Sure. Peace building is one aspect of organization development. When people ask me, well, what do you do? I say I'm a facilitator, a trainer, and a coach. And the facilitation part encompasses the peace building, my mediation practice, my conflict management practice, all those sorts of things. I started off really big, thinking, oh, I'll build culture, I'll do training, I'll do all these things, but
Right.
it kind of pared down to this thing about having difficult conversations, which is essentially peace building. I don't know if you saw my website, but it's all about being, bringing people together. It's about union, bringing union out of discord. So yeah, I've always been a bridge builder, so to speak. My parents raised us to be fair and objective. So it's just one of those things that's always been kind of natural. I couldn't tolerate conflict when I was younger, but at some point I figured out I have to learn to tolerate it, right?
Right.
And the two things, my ability to be fair and objective, along with having to learn how to tolerate conflict, they came together, and it's just been part of what I've always done.
So you say that you were working in marketing for 18 years. How long have you been doing this now, and what kind of strategies have you developed and learned and found useful in your current work?
Yeah, formally, I took my first mediation class 4 or 5 years ago, and it was part of that revelation that I had while working in marketing technology of oh great, this is my talent, I should go pursue this, pursue the mediation piece. It had just always been part of my career, and I was doing it naturally, like I said, with clients. But let's see, strategy wise, I think that the big thing about strategy is being clear and transparent with people. getting people to really get down to their motivations. If it's me and a person having conflict, it's being very clear and saying, I feel this coming from you. I feel that we're having an issue here. Can you tell me more about what that's about? And automatically it disarms people. The same, and when I'm in a room and I'm working through conflict with people, it's really understanding what their motivations are. I'm doing work right now working in a court. And so a lot of it really has to get down to, what is your real motivation? And understanding that human side before I get into fleshing out an actual conflict or fleshing out next steps. So a lot of it really has to go with stripping away what's really going on and getting at what is pushing you here.
But there must be situations where you get into a room and there is one of the parties is now willing to delve into all of that. Like, you have to strip it away, but what if they're not willing to talk about it? What if they're done with the situation and they don't want to deal with it anymore? How do you get them to communicate so that you can get to the root of the issue?
So if I get in the room and there are multiple parties, first of all, before I get in the room with them, I will usually ask them pretty frankly, are you looking for a resolution? Yes. So are you willing to actually go through mediation in which we talk through things? Yes. So if they're looking for a resolution and they're willing to talk, then great. I have no problem saying, I really don't think I can help you with this because I feel that you're unwilling to engage in this in a sincere manner. You know, in my courthouse mediations, it's, I don't think I can help you all. Perhaps you should go see the judge. And you know, so I feel like you really have to know when to take your hands off.
Right. Is this the same line of work that you, of projects that you do for PPS? I don't know if you can talk about what you do for PPS, but what does that entail?
Right now, I'm on one project for PPS, and that is coaching an executive on how to work in an environment that has less conflict. And it's been really, really wonderful because it's about listening, and you only hear one side of it, which is really, really kind of interesting, knowing that there's another side of it. I only actively hear one side of it. So I can really get into how they're perceiving things and then try to help them switch the situation, and then also give them those practical exercises of try this, and we can give that feedback. So yeah, it's more taking the solutions that I've done myself and solutions I've worked with for other people that have been successful, and trying to apply those in the context of coaching for peace, I guess is what you call it. And this is my first word specifically about where I am working to help somebody decrease conflict in their life where they don't work for me or with me, if that makes sense at all. So as a manager, as a team member, I've always done this sort of coaching. But it's really neat because I'm outside of their context. I can be more objective and they will actually listen to me. So
Yeah. Must be great. I think most people need that kind of coaching, but don't realize it or don't even know it's out there. So it's interesting to hear how they take it once they have access to it. And what kind of challenges have you seen in your work with dealing with various clients through this peace building process?
Clients who are not willing to be honest, who aren't willing to talk about things that make them uncomfortable. I mean, I provide the safe space and I go there, but you have to start off being willing to do that hard work. because yeah, I can facilitate that. I can ask you the right questions. I can give you activities, but if you're not genuinely interested in solving the problem and perhaps being willing to be uncomfortable, I don't think I can help you.
I'm sure you face some of that. I don't know often, but in dealing with people in my own life, I know there are always people who aren't willing to communicate or address certain concerns.
Yeah.
But you keep going. What inspires you to keep going? What pushes you to stay in this field?
That's a really good question. I think it's knowing that there is change. Every little bit of change makes a huge, huge difference. So right now, helping companies in Silicon Valley have conversations about race, and making changes, that's amazing to me. I mean, my spending an hour and a half with a group of 20 people who are throughout Silicon Valley can actually make changes in the world. People want to hear, because I guess because I'm genuine. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's a very different story from when I was in my previous career.
And I think now is a good time um, to push for that narrative, to pursue that change that especially addresses racial injustice and all sorts of discrimination that exists in any field, let alone the tech industry.
Yeah,
So I'm glad you're right there doing that work.
I'm trying.
And what do you see as what would you say is your long-term goal for this profession?
My big dream is is to work with the U.S. Congress. That would be if I could, and I don't think that I am quite there yet, skill set wise, but to be able to go in and get people to really start to get focused on one goal and to work with each other. And you're not going to solve all the problems, but just to be able to get people focused on a single goal and work
Right.
together. So that's the ultimate. But yeah, right now it's just getting people to be more comfortable with themselves and to get along better to produce good results.
Yeah, and I think getting Congress to work together is the that's the parent of all peace building.
Right?
But
Exactly.
like I said, I'm new to this. I want to learn as much as I can from as many people as I can. So who are some of the people that you look at and you say, hey, I want to be that person when I grow up? Who are some of the peace builders you admire and look up to?
Lyndon Johnson, who is actually known for being quite a jerk, but he got people to work together. He really did. He achieved some really amazing things by getting people to work together. He used some not great tactics, but his results were really good. Um, that's who comes to mind off the top of my head. Conversely, like so many people, Martin Luther King.
Right.
I think Martin Luther King Jr. I think a lot of people would say the same thing in that he. And the thing that strikes me about him is his authenticity. It's not just his message, but his authenticity and his willingness to go anywhere and do anything for equality and fairness. His objectivity about aiding the downtrodden.
Right.
It wasn't just about race, it was about poverty. It was about women's rights. It was, you know, and then lastly, Bayard Rustin, if you're familiar with him at all.
But I'll find him.
he actually planned. I think he was a primary planner of the 1963 March on Washington.
Uh-huh.
He was a black gay man who was out in the
Oh,
60s.
really?
Hmm.
Oh,
And raised in a Quaker tradition, so very focused on peace. Yeah, so those are the people, and they're bigger. I guess they're some of the bigger names. Bayard Rustin is probably the one that, he toiled in obscurity, as they like to say.
right.
I mean, spearheaded one of the greatest events in American history. It made great change, but he was lost in history for many, many years. So, but yet he pushed on.
So I've always thought of peace building and conflict resolution in the sense of international conflict resolution. So um,
Hmm.
dealing with war-torn zones
Yeah.
where people can't seem to come to any sort of understanding on how to um, to be united, work together. So I think all of um, my inspirations, other than the big ones like Martin Luther King,
Right.
um, have been the people who have worked um, at some point to build peace in East Africa, because that's the
Mhm.
context I was coming from.
Right.
So there are people like Nyerere. I don't know if you know Julius Nyerere. He passed away. He was a Tanzanian peace builder. And I remember as a child, him coming to the refugee camp where my family lived, and trying to send a message of peace and unity and rebuilding Burundi. I'm originally from Burundi.
Okay.
And it was really interesting to me that somebody that powerful would pursue that in a refugee camp where people had fled a conflict that in my mind at that time, I was maybe 10, had nothing to do with him, but it did, because we were in his country
Yep.
as refugees. So he was trying to see what he can do to resolve the conflict between our political uh, influences in Burundi. But I think that's when I started to develop that interest in trying to build um, you know,
No, I'm saying you probably saw the results of what he was doing as far as how it affected everybody around you.
yeah. I think yeah, I did see impact. Things started to change, and then just seeing him, seeing a person like that in that position kind of gives you a sense of hope. And then I came here and realized all the others that have done the same work in the context of civil rights and other incidences that have happened throughout the history of the U.S. that have kind of, unfortunately, still happening, but we've had people,
Yeah.
you know, working on it for many years. So I'm glad that you come from a different context, and then I can start to learn from those other role models as well. Is there anything that you would tell somebody like me who's interested but hasn't started in how to pursue this field, how to what to focus on, what kind of hurdles we can avoid and all that? What's your advice for someone like me?
I think the thing that helped me the most was publicizing in a way. I wrote an article about how businesses can show up as allies in the Black Lives Matter movement. in the office place, within the organization, not necessarily out in public. And it got a whole lot of attention, and I got a lot of feedback and people asking me to do things around having these hard conversations. So I think being authentic about what you're trying to pursue, and if you have thoughts and ideas, expressing those. Secondarily, telling everybody as it goes. So what are you doing right now? What are you trying to do? Oh, I'm working on becoming this thing, whatever your very specific niche is going to be. I will often, my moniker, I guess it is an instrument of peace, or an instrument for peace. But that's the idea. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to bring peace, whether it's getting people to agree on how to move forward, getting people to get rid of their conflicts, getting people to have difficult conversations, whatever it is. I'm here to break up discord. That's what I'm here for. So telling people that, being sure about what that is, for me, it took a while, but I was inspired. I really, really was inspired. And I said, that's it right there. And not comparing yourself to other people. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. That's my big lesson is, here I am, this is what I'm doing. Oh, look, somebody else is doing something similar. So what?
Right.
Follow, gosh, so trope, but follow your heart. I think is the big thing, because maybe this exact line of peace building isn't where you're inspired to be, or where you're aligned, but there's something around it that probably you're aligned to.
I think the one theme I keep hearing, even from classes, from conversations with people in peace building, is how much authenticity and communication and just caring, how long those go when you're trying to resolve conflict and trying to and getting it out of your head that any one perspective is the right perspective.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.